know who has access to what? This is the Identity at the Center podcast. If you're looking for identity and access management talk, you've come to the right place. And now, on to the show.
Welcome to another episode of Identity at the Center. Jim and I are in Seattle this week for the Cole Consumer Identity World Conference. That's a mouthful.
That's Seattle, Washington.
That's true, Seattle, Washington. We're going to talk a little bit about our strategies and how we attack conferences in a good way, not a bad attack. We should probably rephrase that. Right?
This is being recorded before the conference, so if anything happens,
right? This is Exhibit
we did
A.
not attack the conference.
Right. This is not Exhibit A for the impending lawsuit. No, it is the strategy of conference attendance.
That's
how about that? So we have a special guest. We have Jaime Lewis-Gross, Global Director of Solution Strategy at Savient, former Identropy colleague. And even before that, I know Jaime for 10 years, 15 years?
Probably closer to 15.
Closer to 15. That is how old I am, not Jaime.
No, I don't
when
know.
I was
the timeless one.
The timeless one.
Exactly.
When I was at Walgreens, Jaime was my first project manager as her customer from an IAM implementation we were doing. So we go way back. Way back in the day.
Way back to password management.
Exactly. Yeah, password management. She just happened to be in Seattle at the same time. We dragged her kicking and screaming from a dinner to know you're coming over to our very posh hospitality suite to record a podcast with us.
Yes, and here I am.
Here you are. So
the hospitality suite being a free, let's be honest.
Okay, yeah.
Free upgrade.
It's one of the benefits of travel, right?
Yes.
Is sometimes you get, and I'll have to say, this is probably the nicest room that I've been in a very long time.
Yeah, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree. I did not get this upgrade.
We have a sofa, a dining table, 2 bathrooms, 2 refrigerators. This is, I could just probably live here.
So Jeff, in terms of going over strategy going into conferences, I think even before that, picking which conferences we attend or want to attend going into a year, it's probably a big one. Now, Jaime, you work for a software vendor, so I'm assuming a lot of the conferences you go to would be based on what your company is sponsoring or things like that. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's really about, we want to demonstrate capabilities of the platform. So we really select conferences based upon where we are in the market. So, different partnerships. So there's different reasons why we select different conferences, but obviously we're always going to attend the big hitters like the Gartner IAM Summit. We're going to attend partner-related conferences like the AWS conference, the Microsoft conference, and so on. So you'll generally see us at a lot of national events, global events, and also regionally based events.
What about more security-focused ones like RSA? Do you guys have any presence? Like, is that something that makes sense? Even though it's more of like a just general information security, there's a lot of IAM vendors there, but will we see you there next year, hopefully, if we're able to attend?
Yeah, so I think our philosophy being in cybersecurity, being in cloud security, those are the types of conferences that you're going to see us at because we definitely span across a platform. We believe in the unification of identity, the ability to context switch very quickly, ownerships over identities, whether they are logical related identities, whether they're bots, whether they're service accounts. So absolutely, we're going to play in all those different spaces from a conference perspective.
So Jeff, you're pretty big into, you love being at conferences, right? So,
I actually do, yeah.
Yeah, so
rare.
You start the year, you look at all the conferences, there's probably a dozen, but you can't be at conferences every week, right? So how do you go about, identifying the conferences that interest you and then prioritizing which ones are most important?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with what's your role, right? So from an identity management perspective, I'm looking for conferences that are in that field, right? It's a lot easier to justify, hey, I'd like to go to an IAM conference when you do IAM work versus, hey, I want to go to, PAX West, which is an amazing conference out here in Seattle for like comics and games and stuff like that. It has nothing to do with anything that I do professionally, but still find interesting. So you have to find something, I think, that lines up with your role, and then pick and choose the ones that make the most sense. So for me, I think RSA is a very good one. It's very big. It can be very expensive, especially since it's in San Francisco, and hotel rates in San Francisco can be pretty crazy. But I think that one's still worth it just because of the sheer number of people who show up to that one. You could spend easily 2-3 days just in the vendor hall, going through all the different products that are out there. From my perspective, I like to try and find something new. It's not that, the current players are anything wrong with them, but I want to know like what's next, right? We know SailPoint, we know Savient, we know Oracle, we know IBM, Microsoft, et cetera. What's the next wave coming out? And at these larger conferences, RSA specifically, Gartner sometimes isn't really having a lot of newer stuff, but they do have some things there. Identiverse is a good one that happens in the summer. So I try to space them out and look for new things coming out from there. And then also from a attendance standpoint, I try to go as an attendee, not as a company man. Not a booth babe, or any type of role like that. Although, that is part of the role that you may end up talking. I know Jamie and I have been at conferences where we're manning the booth, so to speak, and talking with prospective clients and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think especially now, so moving back into the product side, certainly there's acquisition of knowledge for the purposes of conferences, but I would say more so on the advisory side, consulting, educating customers, conferences. In my perspective, the role that I played previously was all about how much information can you acquire in a short amount of time to be able to better educate customers. And like I said, certainly that's something that I still seek out. However, now being on the product side, you really want to immerse yourself as an organization to make sure that your message is heard. So that's a little bit of the difference now.
Have that 30-second elevator pitch honed.
Yes.
And ready to go.
Exactly.
One of the things I've been thinking, so different people are listening to the podcast and may not know some of these conferences. So Gartner, I think, is kind of the leading IAM industry conference. I mean, it's the one that I think the most people go to when they're first getting into the industry, or they're first taking over a role as like an IAM program manager. Gives you a real framework in terms of how to think about IAM. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of been the heavy hitter over the years. For me personally, as I've been in the industry for 15 years, a lot of the fundamentals that they cover in the sessions are more basic for me. I still like to go every other year or every year for the networking aspect, but in terms of the content, I'm not getting a lot of new stuff from it. Want to know what you guys think about that. And then also Identiverse seems to really be coming on the scenes in terms of kind of the most, or one of the most popular IAM conferences.
Yeah, I like the Identiverse conference. I think that is poised to become the IAM conference of the year, so to speak. Not that the other ones are bad or don't have a value, but I think Identiverse is very specifically focused on identity. And it was started by Ping several years ago. It's been rebranded to Identiverse. And I think Ping has actually done a really good job of making it not a Ping sales conference, right? It is more of an identity conference. They have lots of good speakers. It is a more technical tract of presentations typically than what you'll find out at a Gartner. Gartner is, I think Gartner sessions are more tailored to beginners in IAM, executives who are, just kind of getting into it, and the networking aspect of it. But I think Identiverse is coming on strong. It's pretty small still. There's only, I'm not sure how many people, but they did it in one small hotel in Washington D.C. this year, and it was a lot of the sessions were overflowing. But I think it's about to become the big one. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, I agree. I thought that there was a lot of good material, and it's very worthwhile for the space that we're in.
What do you guys think of? Well, let me ask a different question. What's the largest IT conference you've ever been to?
RSA.
RSA.
It's like 35,000 people or something like that. Downtown San Francisco, Moscone Center. I mean, it's a huge, huge thing. It's crazy expensive, but it's definitely the biggest one, I think.
So I was at Oracle World and they had 60,000 attendees.
Oracle, yeah, I can see
That
Oracle
was
World, yeah.
mind blowing. What's that?
Oracle World, yeah, I think that one's pretty big.
Yeah, and that, I mean, obviously, IAM's only one small component of Oracle World. But I've been to Oracle World. I've been to CA's conferences. That was also very large and not just focused on IAM. I'm not sure how many people attend Gartner and Identiverse.
I know Identiverse is still relatively small. I think Gartner's a little bit bigger, but it's like anything else that's niche, right? It's IAM is the niche. So people who are interested in IAM are typically going to go to Identiverse in the summer, which is when they have it, and then Gartner's IAM Summit, at least for the US, is in usually the first week of December-ish, somewhere in that time frame. So
the three biggest vendor conferences I've been to have been Oracle, CA, Microsoft. So I was at the Microsoft Partner Conference. And one thing that sets us apart is that because of their large scale, they'll do some really cool stuff that is outside of the conference track, things like concerts and, you know, entertainment. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a fun experience anyway.
As fun as a conference can be.
When I was at the Microsoft one, they had Carrie Underwood play at the Washington National Baseball Stadium. They, you know, sealed the place off just for the Microsoft conference in DC. It's pretty cool.
I guess if you got Microsoft money, you can do that.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
I think the most important thing, though, is really the swag that comes out of these conferences.
conference swag is a very important feature.
Mm-hmm.
What's your philosophy on that?
Most of it sucks. There's a lot of just crap out there that people give away, ourselves included. Sometimes we don't.
Wait. One year we had, I think, the worst giveaway ever.
How about the orange cups?
The orange cups. Do you remember the orange
I
cups?
do remember the orange cups.
I mean, they might have been memorable because of how much they sucked.
I think that was before I joined Identity, actually.
Or because they were so awesome for beer pong.
They look, but people thought they were like the cheap
Yeah.
solo cups.
So how do we describe this for people who are listening? So a red solo cup, right? But
Insulated.
thicker, heavier duty, a quality solo cup. Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah.
But orange.
So orange, right? Because the identity color, etc. I have two of them in my house. I use them all the time.
Got like 10 of them.
Too. But swag, I think, is an important one. The bigger the conference, the better the swag. Although I have noticed a shift now where it used to be that there was a lot more stuff being given away, and a lot of it has changed now, like raffles.
Right.
You have to stop by the booth,
right.
put your,
To get the big
your
ticket.
badge
passport
scan.
thing in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I did win Bose headphones one year, which was kind of cool.
I
I had already left the conference, so I had to like walk from the Luxor all the way to Mandalay Bay. I'll be right there.
I used to make a big effort to get stuff, and T-shirts was one that I really liked. But I found that those T-shirts, once you washed them once or twice, they just.
You mean it's not a high quality T-shirt?
Not
coming
a
out of
high-quality T-shirt,
out of a
no.
security conference? That's shocking.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy?
I've never been one to take home paraphernalia. I do think that we have one good piece of swag, and that is the Tide pen. It comes in very handy.
Tide pen?
Yeah, for removing
for
stains.
I'm like Tide pen.
Yeah. Outside
That's
of that,
useful.
It's useful.
yeah.
It's very useful. But no, I haven't been the type of person that likes to collect and bring home things in my suitcase.
If you want to see people who do that, go to RSA. Because there are people who I think that's their job.
That's the only reason I'm there.
It's to go to each booth and get something. They walk out with bags and bags and bags of stuff. I don't know how they're going to get that stuff home. Ship it, I guess, but we're not talking small bags, like huge bags full of
Yeah,
stuff.
they got like, if they have stress, they have 8 stress relief balls now.
Right,
They're going to be
exactly.
set.
Yeah.
But we're getting a good swag for Identity.
Don't jinx it. Is it happening?
It's going to
I
happen.
don't. You know what? We have good swag coming. Let's leave it at that because we don't want to let competition in on how good our upcoming swag may be.
Good point. Good point.
So we should focus then on kind of the philosophy you go into a conference with. So let's start with networking. is your goal to meet as many people as possible, make a few quality networking contacts, or you don't care about that at all?
Jamie, you go first.
So I would say it depends upon the role in which I'm in at the conference. So if I am in a role where it's about acquiring new customers, then I want to probably meet as many potential opportunities as possible, get the message out there. I would say, generally speaking, however, my personality is all about acquiring knowledge. And I would say that I want to focus in on the right amount of subject matter expertise that I'm looking to acquire. And therefore, the contact points would be lower, very focused in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm relatively similar. When I attend a conference, my main mission is to attend the sessions, right? Find something, bring something back, learn, etc. I would rather do that, be honest with you, than try to do networking. That's something that I'm typically interested in doing because I find that takes time away from the other. Because a lot of times you go to these conferences and you'll be in a session, or there's a session coming up that you want to attend, and you may get pulled off to go and talk to a prospective customer or something like that. Which that's fine, right? That's part of the job and part of the business, but it's taking me away from my purpose there is to learn stuff. And I think that's sometimes what clients want too is you're attending conferences on their behalf. What did you see in here at RSA, Black Hat, Gartner, Identiverse, Consumer Identity World, those sorts of things. And that's my own personal philosophy.
My philosophy is kind of go into it with like a people person attitude. Like, even I realize that I'm the kind of guy who you wind up sitting next to me on the plane, I'm going to come up with some small talk and feel you out. Do you want to chit chat? And there are going to be people at the conference who will either chit chat or won't. And I'll meet people who, maybe a prospective customer or maybe a contact that, will stay in touch, or I might learn one or two things, or maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll just learn something from me, but I just go into it kind of, being friendly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that works for me.
Being friendly?
Being friendly.
It's a shocking idea.
From me?
I like Jamie's answer though. I think that's spot on. It really depends why you're at the conference. Right.
Yeah, that's true. So the other topic would be when you go and you look at the agenda, and I know that different conferences are going to present differently, but a lot of times with conferences, you'll have tracks. And one of the tracks might be, let's just put a fictitious example out there. You've got a track that's like your lane. This is what you do for your job. This is your interest area. And then you've got a track that is just interesting to you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you divide up your time, or so tomorrow, or in the conference that we're attending, they've got one track, I think it's sometime tomorrow or Thursday, where it's focused on consumer identity management. That's definitely my lane. That's the area I focus on. But then they've got a track at the same exact time on AI and bots and marketing. And I'm like, I'm just so interested in that. I'm so interested in the idea of tracking people, and then how that information is taken and used to predict your next move, and then how that interplays with privacy. So I'm going to put it to you guys first, and then I'll talk about how I would divide up my time.
Ladies first.
So I'm going to go back to what capacity am I acting in? Do I need competitive intel? Do I need to understand future positioning? I would say I tend to like to stay in my lane, but I have to force myself out of my lane. So I think I would gravitate towards the things that are visionary, future forward, and relatable to some of maybe the more basic and rudimentary concepts that I can at least take what's futuristic and apply them back to what we're doing now, but how customers can evolve.
Yeah.
I definitely do not look to attend things that I already know. If I'm going to go to a conference, I want to learn something new. So if it's something that's not necessarily my wheelhouse, and it's something that I think is interesting as far as both personally but also professionally, I will go to those. Now, what happens a lot of time though is, sessions get scheduled and there's like 8 different things all at the same time that you want to go to, and then there's like nothing like the next hour. So it's just something that happens at every conference that I attend anyway. So I have a lot of flexibility where I try to bounce between different sessions. So if I'm sitting for 5 minutes in one session and it's not going the way that I thought it would, give me the slides, I'll go to the next, go to a different session.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times you can get the slides afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
The way I kind of think about it is that if it's something in my lane, probably 75% or more of what's going to be discussed, I already know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not there to hear confirmation of the beliefs I already have. I'm there to understand new perspectives. So I think going into, this particular session where it's one or the other, I'm going to choose to do the AI piece because it's just such an interest area. And I think it's something that is going to have a great influence on IAM going forward.
AI.
It's
a bold statement.
Yeah, that's my bold statement. Drop the mic.
Always leave on a high note, Jim.
Good. Well,
so you're going to the AI one tomorrow?
I'm going to go to the I think it's Thursday.
Good call. AI and bots. That's
AI,
where it's at.
Yeah.
Bots are where it's at. One of the things that I find hard is really just clearing off my work calendar to be at a conference.
Yep.
I mean, and this is actually, I feel like this week I'm the worst offender that I've ever been. Normally I can get it down to like one meeting a day. And I've got some where it's like I've got 2-hour meetings in back-to-back days. I just think it's bad planning on my part, but kind of what is your philosophy on that?
Yeah, it's tough sometimes. You have to balance being available for work and customers and having to just get your normal work done in addition to trying to set aside time for conferences. I try to reschedule things as much as I can, but sometimes it just doesn't happen, right? And you have to kind of duck out of a conference, which stinks, but it is what it is. But I do try to be proactive about it, look at my calendar weeks, months in advance, right? And block the time so that people don't schedule it or move things around if something comes up that is relatively new. So
it feels like more of the conferences we attend are on the West Coast. And I'm wondering, is that intentional so that people can shift their day 3 hours?
I think it's better weather.
Do you think it's better weather?
I think conferences are better attended when they're in a location that is either cheap to get to or is a destination.
I was thinking the other thing was a lot of the tech companies are in the Bay Area, and then they'll have their people go to the conference, but they don't have to pay for them to be at a hotel.
Right. I think most conferences shift around. There are a few that are static.
Yeah.
RSA has traditionally been in San Francisco, although they sent a survey out last year after it was over, polling people for other locations. So they may be looking, I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but it sounds like they're at least considering, do they move out of San Francisco and go somewhere else? Gartner is typically in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't necessarily care for Vegas. I think it's great for conferences. They have everything you need there.
I love Vegas.
And it's entertaining if you can, avoid the distractions, but at least it has all the services that you need. Plenty of hotel rooms, plenty of restaurants, plenty of conference facilities, etc.
Yeah.
They're designed to handle mass amounts of traffic.
How do you feel about Vegas?
I don't love Vegas.
No?
I feel like the least amount of time I can spend in Vegas, the better.
It's just dirty.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan.
But if you go to the Cosmo, it's not dirty. It's
No, that's a great venue.
Yeah.
I just don't That's not my preference.
Okay. Where's your favorite conference spot?
Oh, favorite conference spot.
And you can't say hotel room after the conference is over.
I don't know. I would say I've been to conferences in Chicago, but Chicago's just,
It's a real crapshoot for weather.
yeah, exactly. But
I can say that because I'm
Chicago's
from Chicago.
a personal city favorite of mine. I'm gonna say with Chicago. Not going
Orlando
otherwise.
does a good job with conferences.
Yeah,
There's lots to
Orlando's
do.
good.
If you can stay indoors.
You don't like the weather even in January. It's too hot.
It's too warm. I like San Francisco. I think it's a great
Boston.
spot.
I like Boston.
Austin's not bad.
Nashville.
Yeah. If I had to choose, it would be Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, or Vegas. Any of those spots are great.
Right.
I've never been to Denver for a conference, but I hear that's pretty good. I think Deniverse is actually going to be there next year, so that'll be my opportunity.
I like Denver.
All right, Jeff. So what are we going to do our next podcast on? Are we going to do a wrap up of this conference?
Yeah, I think we're going to try to put together some thoughts around consumer identity world and what we came away with, and if we stuck to our plans or not. If we saw anything that's interesting out there, and come back with a recap on that. Probably next week, I'm thinking. Give us some time to let it soak in and put it together our thoughts.
I think also if you're listening to the podcast and you've had any thoughts, if you're like screaming into the radio as you were listening to the podcast, radio, yeah. If you were listening on 8-track, no, but if you wanted to say something, send it to us and we can do like a mailbag kind of thing.
Yeah, we've gotten some good feedback. Questions at identityatthecenter.com is the email address. We read everyone, and surprisingly, people do email us
Yes.
with very nice words of encouragement and ideas for topics, and we certainly take those topics, and it typically takes us a few weeks to get it into the rotation because we have things kind of planned out, but we do listen and read all of those and appreciate the feedback we've been getting. So tell your friends, like, subscribe. I feel like a stupid YouTuber.
Like it's subscribe.
Yeah, like
5-star.
Yeah. Oh, brush with greatness today. For people who know MKBHD on YouTube, Marquez Brownlee, I saw him at the Seattle airport as I was leaving my gate. He was going to his gate. We're on the moving walkways. I saw him, fist bump on the way past as we're going through. So I think this trip has been successful.
Brush with greatness.
Exactly. Guy's he has 9 million subscribers on YouTube. That's huge.
That is huge.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of him.
Never heard of him. He's a tech YouTuber. He does a lot of reviews and stuff like that. I don't need to necessarily plug his show because he has millions of people listening to that. But I thought it was kind of cool. It's like, oh, that's so-and-so. I recognize him right away.
We might be able to get him 3 or 4 more subscribers.
Or lose a couple.
Yeah.
A bunch of dorks of IAM when we're talking about you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think dorks from talking about IAM is probably a good way to end it. Jamie, thank you very much for staying with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thanks,
I
Jamie.
enjoyed the podcast, and I would be more than happy to be a special guest in the future.
Oh my gosh, you should see the look on her face right now. A forced smile. All right, we're going to call it at this point. Thank you very much for listening.
You've been listening to the Identity at the Center podcast. To access all episodes, visit identityatthecenter.com.